Hi, it's Micky Dolenz here. You're listening to Inspirado Projecto.
Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you for taking the time out of your day to talk on the podcast Inspirado Projecto and give such a unique story that you would not otherwise feel compelled to share. So thank you. And you and I met on TikTok, and that's all I'm going to say about how we're connected. And you're going to remain anonymous throughout this, so you feel more freedom and openness to share any of these unique insights and experiences that you've had.
Yes, and thank you, since it's therapeutic to finally get this off of my chest, because I couldn't bring myself to tell anybody, not my closest family, friends, no one, because it is, abnormal, and a lot of people think that such occurrences are just of someone who's delusional to conceive. Excuse me. And so I was abducted many times since childhood by aliens, and I didn't want to believe it myself. And for the longest time, thought it was reoccurring nightmares. But over time, after coming across information about people who experience encounters very similar to what I thought were dreams of alien abductions, I began to speculate, since I found scholarly sources about the subject. For example, a Harvard professor named John Mack interviewed hundreds of people whom he was qualified to deem non-delusional and completely sane individuals. And they all reported similar accounts to my own. I know sane too. I have a degree in social work and counseling, studied lots of psychology, and I have a government social work job in child protective services. Also, when I was in college, I took a course called parapsychology, which was the study of paranormal and psychic phenomena, in which I came across more scholarly evidence that aliens contact may be real, such as case studies in which, while people are under hypnosis, they described the same type of encounters I had. Also, there's ancient civilization texts from all around the world that describe encounters with otherworldly beings and describe advanced astronomy, which they had no means to know on their own. Also about 5 years, I had a problem with my hip joint and needed emergency surgery, and a strange object was found implanted. The surgeon showed me the really small, strange, object. It seemed like a little rock, and it couldn't be cut with a scalpel. He showed me. You tried to cut it open to see what it was.
Whoa!
That wasn't normal at all, and I didn't tell him, but I realized it was implants.
Yes, I was going to ask you about that. So
Yeah.
This is very interesting. So did he hold on to that, or did he give that to you to hold on to?
He asked for it, and at one point I did have it in a little container in the hospital room, because I had to be hospitalized for like 5 days after that hip surgery. And also another strange thing that happened while I was in the hospital is this group of guys came to my room, and the doctor introduced them and claimed they were medical students. And but one of them came up to me and went to hypnotize me. It's hard to believe it's so far-fetched what happened. So I think maybe the doctor reported the strange implant, and I don't know if I don't think those men were med students.
No.
Because I recognize hypnosis because I study psychology.
Oh my gosh. What were they trying to say to you? How were they trying to hypnotize you?
But then I don't recall. Well, he went up to me and actually did the classic type of hypnosis, the old way in which you would use a pendulum effect.
Mm-hmm.
And he held that in front of me, and I recognized, he's going to be hypnotizing me. And I think they wanted to get info from me, considering with that odd implant found in the hip joint, because the doctor told me there's not even room for anything like that. It wasn't naturally occurring. Like it was like a mystery. And that's when I realized, oh my God, I was not dreaming. Like, and so
So now, do you
okay.
remember? I just want to take you back real fast to those hypnotists. Were you awake during this, going, "Okay, I know what they're trying to do"? And do you remember any of the questions they asked, or do you think
No,
that
I
maybe you
don't.
were slightly put under hypnosis?
And it's also great, mind you, I was on like really strong painkillers.
Mm-hmm.
But just I never lose consciousness, no matter like what I'm on, what substance I'm on. I just know, I would just recognize that they, came to interviewed me and hypnotized me, and that they gathered information. I do not recall. I just recall them, the guys doing the pendulum effect in front of my face with to hypnotize me, and then he left, and I just, next I knew, I like woke up and they weren't there anymore.
Whoa! Now, did the doctor come back and say anything? Like, did you notice if his demeanor was any different after they left, or like as if maybe he knew maybe what was going to be happening, or do you know what any of the questions were that he asked you after that happened?
No, because I don't recall anything that was asked of me.
Gotcha.
Um, and yeah, so I didn't even see the surgeon again after that. And then I asked the nurse what happened to the little the object that was in it was in the hospital room, and it was gone. The nurse said, "Oh, I think it was accidentally thrown out." It was gone. So yeah.
Right. I mean, in medical places like that, they hold on to those things to test them, to look at them, to wonder, especially if it's like an anomaly like that, like you're describing, that there's no space in that area for something like that to grow or to be, implanted in such a way where it wouldn't be, invasive or a major thing. Like, I mean, it sounds to me like if someone, unbeknownst to you, just a human being had implanted it in there, certainly you would have had scars from that experience. Certainly you would have had, all kinds of things. But my gosh, with the accounts that I've heard with people who have had these implants, it's just in there. It's flawless. It's like there's no way that you can even tell that somehow that thing was put in there.
Mm-hmm.
And like that kind of thing happened to a friend of mine where he found this thing in his foot. I'm not going to get into the big stories there, but he instead of giving it to the doctor, he kept it and he brought it in a little bottle. Now he didn't have any, quote, med students, unquote, coming into the room to hypnotize him. But so after that happened, this is so fascinating to me. So just believe that whatever you're saying to me, I'm soaking it in. Okay, there's no judgment on any of this stuff. This stuff is, this stuff is very intriguing to me, and I love hearing people's experiences with this. So after that the hospital stay, were you visited again?
No. Well, not by like anyone that seemed to be like government officials or what have you. No.
Were you visited by extraterrestrials again?
But I did have after that, like the older I got, like mind you, I had encounters like many times that started during childhood. And then the last encounter I had was like about a year and a half ago, in which in that case I don't recall being taken out of my home, but one of the beings was standing over me while I was like half asleep and holding a device over me, and then telepathically told me that I was just being healed. And but so that was the last encounter I had. So the first encounter that I recall was I was just a little girl, and so what would happen is it would happen at night, in which I would I would be awake in my bed, and then I would realize, oh, there's suddenly beings surrounding me in the room, and they do look like the way they're portrayed, like sometimes on TV and movies. They have the big bulbous bald heads. They're like a grayish color. They have really huge eyes that are slanted, and they're all black, like sort of demonic looking eyes, but really big in proportion to the rest of their face. They don't really have a nose. They just have nostrils, and they have a little slit for a mouth, like a tiny pointy chin, not too pointy, but like a really tiny chin, very slender bodies, like humanoid though, and then really long fingers. I remember that about them. And then what would occur, I would feel terror, but then I think they somehow like were able to paralyze me. So I would still be conscious, but I was paralyzed. And then suddenly I would feel myself being levitated. And then the next thing I would remember is just suddenly being on like I'm apparently on a ship, but on like an operating table. And then, the beings would be around me doing medical procedures on me. And I remember one of them even really, because I'll never forget the way they look, because one of them actually got it like close to my face and was like staring into my eyes. And I could tell, like, I just knew that it was probably like scanning my brain, like, because they telepathically communicate. And I could communicate back with them. I understood. They would give me messages, without speaking, just within my head, and like, and vice versa. And they would, and I don't recall feeling any pain. But I was terrified. But I would be, telepathically told, calm down, yada, yada, yada. And then after the medical procedures were finished, then I would be taken to other parts of the ship. And I would, I remember at times, like, they would have me go through, like, they would want me to learn something, which I don't recall exactly what I was being trained to learn. But I remember like them having me look at this like a screen, a more advanced screen, like it's not like screens like we have, like and just I don't recall exactly what I was to learn. And then I remember there was some kind of like big machine that they had me look into, and I had to learn something. And I remember they telepathically told me, okay, you got to learn this. If you want to go back, you got to learn this.
Whoa.
And isn't that odd? I know, it's hard to believe. Like, I swear, I'm not a delusional person.
Are you having like any images in your brain of what that thing was that you could have been learning on that screen?
I don't recall exactly what I was supposed to be learning.
Wow. So, okay. So now when they first appeared, when you woke up and you saw these beings in your room, how tall were they? I know you were saying that you were young, really little at that time.
Yeah.
But would you say they were about your size? Were they about, your mom's and dad's size at the time? Were they?
So, well, I was a child. I would say the ones that would come to get me were like smaller. But then the ones that would operate on me were a lot taller.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I know they spoke to you telepathically. Did you, can you think of like if there was any sort of sound in your brain, if you were to put it into a voice, what kind of voice would that telepathic message sound like?
Yeah, so it wouldn't be my own voice, and not necessarily a voice, an audible voice. It was just like a communication in which I would recognize that the messages were not my own thoughts, so I knew it was from them.
Wow.
And I could in turn, and we could communicate with each other. That method, it's called telepathy. Like when I was in college, I took the parapsychology class. We also studied telepathy, and I was like in awe when I was studying telepathy, because I recalled I actually did communicate that method before.
Whoa! Wow! Very interesting that these things that you studied later on in school happened to spark these anchored moments in your life where you had visited with these beings. And you're like, whoa, here you are reading this particular thing, and you're going, oh boy, I know exactly what that is, because that's what happened to me, on this particular visitation or that particular visitation. I mean, that must have been quite an epiphany at that moment.
Mm-hmm. And then also, I recall many times, like after this would happen, even when I was a kid, I just thought, oh, I was just dreaming. But I would wake up in different places of the house. Like they would bring me back home but they wouldn't bother put me back in the bed where they took me. I often would wake up like in the center of the house, like at the end of the hall, like in between where the kitchen and living room was.
Whoa.
So I would wake, yeah, after having a dream like that, what I thought was a dream at the time, I would wake up at a different area of the house. And, I wasn't really a sleepwalker, and it would have been, my door was always shut. It's not like I could have
Whoa.
walked and opened my bedroom door and walked down the hall. And like, I would have, like, there was like a half wall at the end of the hall. So I would have like gotten hurt and like walked into a wall or something, but I didn't. I wouldn't wake up injured or anything. And I remember there were times when like I was wearing a nightgown and I would wake up and I would be not in my bed and my nightgown would be backwards.
Wow. So,
but even back then, I still didn't want to believe it wasn't just a dream, like a vivid dream. But then like as I grew older and I thought back to that, especially since like I studied child psychology, and I realized, how could a child fathom alien abduction?
Yeah.
Like, granted, like I recall like long ago I watched Unsolved Mysteries, and like they would touch upon the subject of like UFO sightings, but nothing about abductions and what they looked like and any of that. So like how, and then like I used to just think, oh, I always had a vivid imagination. But then later on in life, when I encountered all this research of other people's accounts of beings like the ones I encounter, because they describe them to a T, like when it comes to like the way they look, like they look exactly as I recall, like in these, what I thought were dreams. So that's when I started to realize I think I really had alien encounters.
Whoa. So, okay. So, I mean, that must have been that must have been such a strange moment the very first time when you read about a story or heard a story or saw a movie where suddenly it's dealing with that kind of subject, which you previously thought was a very personal dream that no one else talked about, or you felt reluctant to talk to anyone about, and all of a sudden there it is depicted in a book or on a movie. And now this is raising some validity in your brain, combined with that implant that you found in your leg. Now, I mean, I can only imagine what the heck that would be like. So that first time happened. How soon after that was the second time you were visited, and what happened then?
And it was always just sporadic, and I would never know exactly when it would happen. But it did happen like many, many times throughout my life, from age ranging of approximately maybe 6 years old to the last encounter when I was like about 39.
Okay, so let's see. I'm trying to figure out, like, is there anything that you can remember where there were similar circumstances that happened the day or the night before you were abducted? Like if there was some kind of shred of some kind of familiarity of like, oh, I remember, there's a common thing. It was this, I read this book and then this would happen, or I go on a trip with my parents, to this place, or come back and there was this. I mean, is there anything that you can imagine in your brain that you can affix to those moments happening?
Not really, no.
So, okay, so throughout all those times, what are some of the most memorable moments that, like, well, I guess I'll ask you this, like, what was the difference between the next encounter you had from that first encounter?
And then I recall, like, all the encounters occurred the same way, in which they would come into my room, paralyze me. I would still be conscious, and then levitated, and then suddenly in the operating room. And then I would get, after the operating, I would get to go, be, taken around the ship. And then another thing that happened, which sounds so far-fetched, but it's something I don't think it was a dream, like I said. I was like introduced to what I was telepathically told were like alien human offspring of mine. Like
like hybrid children?
Hybrid children. And then so like I actually did end up researching to see if other people had that experience, and then there is info about that online too.
Yes. Okay, so you were introduced to your hybrid children.
Yes. And I remember my first time I encountered one, I was just a kid myself. And I remember always being fascinated with babies and always thought babies were so special. And I remember like I was probably only about like 6 or 7 myself. And on this ship I got to cradle a hybrid baby in my arms. And the baby looked mostly alien though, with the same like big black eyes. Yep.
Whoa. And so they said, this is your, or you just understood, this is my,
They
this is one of my children.
they telepathically communicated that with me.
So, wow. So, you know, it's been said, like Dolores Cannon talks about this, a number of these teachers that I really follow closely, whether it's Bashar or from Seth Speaks, any of this kind of stuff. There is that idea that those who have been abducted, their eggs, their sperm are then extracted, and then, you know, they make these hybrid children out there. And so it's interesting that so you know you have at least one hybrid child, right? Because you saw the one.
I know of one other too. So, and that one I met later on in my life too. Like when I was in my 30s, I was taken up and met one that seemed to be like maybe toddler age, maybe older than toddler though. And that one actually had blue skin, like big bulbous head, the same like creepy. I don't like the eyes. They're like not demonic looking eyes. I don't believe that they're evil at all. And that one telepathically communicated with me that we will save humanity.
This is so incredible. Okay. So now each of these times they visited you, did they, because you're saying your little hybrid child had blue skin, did you happen to notice any in your recollection here? Do you remember any of the extraterrestrials that would visit you at night that happened to have blue skin?
No, they always had, the only ones I saw had like a grayish white skin.
And did you get the vibe that they were the same, I don't want to say employees, the same ones that were visiting you throughout the decades?
Yeah, throughout the decades, there's always the same type of extraterrestrials. Yes.
Wow. Okay. Wow. This is intriguing. Now, and then usually, okay, so you'd go up there, they'd operate on you, then they'd take you around the ship, and then they'd say, okay, you've got to learn this, and you got to learn this if you want to go back. And that aspect of you having to learn something, was that every time?
I practically, yes.
Do you remember what any of the inside of the ship looks like?
And like I just remember like multi-levels. I remember actually one time I was shown a part of the ship where there were like really advanced incubators for the hybrid children, for the babies.
Did it look like there's just tons of them?
There were many, yes. And like I was actually triggered not long ago when I went to this haunted house, and they actually had to be like an alien invasion type theme. And there was actually they made their own like incubators with creepy looking babies in it, and I was so triggered by that.
Gosh. Whoa. I mean, especially when you compound on well, first of all, just the fact that something like that emerges right there in front of your reality, which, throughout the decades of living, you seeing those things in person in your dreams, and then compounded on that fact that you haven't been able to talk about any of this to anybody, even sometimes if we were to explain a dream that sounds like this, someone's like, what the heck, that's crazy. But then for them to then find out, no, that this actually happened. Like, this is not just a sci-fi book I read. Like, this is really actually happening. I just, every time that there's some kind of information about the government finally, going, oh yeah, by the way, yeah, we have been doing all that research, and oh yeah, by the way, those are UFOs in the sky. Each time something like that happens, I secretly hope that the people who have been abducted and been contactees, I secretly hope that those people get some sort of vindication, some apology, some kind of thing like, well, we are so sorry for calling you crazy. We're so sorry for locking you up in the insane asylum. We're so sorry for ridiculing you for this thing that we just couldn't comprehend. We couldn't wrap our brains around, but now we see this is very valid. You'd think that they'd turn to those who have been abducted and contacted and go, tell us what you know. Like right now, tell us what you know. Like, just tell me, even if I pretend it's fiction, just tell me what this unique experience is, because, I think through TikTok, which is just really exciting to me, is that more and more people are offering their stories of this kind of thing. And what's interesting to me is that I'll come across someone like yourself who makes a comment in there, and I go, oh my gosh, please make some TikToks about this. And they go, no, I don't want to be looked at as, nobody knows that I know. Nobody knows any of what happened here, and I don't want, I don't want them thinking I'm crazy or something. And I go, okay, that totally makes sense. And it's just too bad that we're still in that kind of state of society where there is that worry about disclosing such information. Because imagine how many people are out there who have experienced this kind of thing that have never had this sort of ability to kind of get these things off their chest. And it just amazes me anytime I hear stories like these, and they all match up. So what, with these ships, has there ever been a movie or a TV show, or have you ever read a book where they described very similarly, or it was depicted very similarly to your own experiences of inside the ships?
Yes. And actually, because I ended up looking up Dolores Cannon and the book of hers. I think it was called Watchers or something like that. I don't recall the name.
Guardians, maybe?
The Guardians, yes. And in the book, someone she hypnotized and got the info out, like drew pictures of the ship, and it triggered me because it brought back, the images I have in my brain, my subconscious, and but actually I already did retain a lot. Like most people actually have their memory wiped clean, but I did recall a lot of my experience without even having to be triggered. But just the images become more vivid when like I see something similar to what I experienced. And also I was researching about to see if anyone else had because there's a lot out there about alien abduction and getting operated on, but I was curious about if there's other people out there who met hybrid alien children. And there is a woman out there who's so brave and voiced her experiences were like exactly the same as mine, and her name's Bridget Nielsen. And she has a YouTube channel, and I really applaud her, give her kudos for coming out with it, because I never could.
Well, what's so
anonymous.
It's amazing you're bringing up Bridget Nielsen, because I'm going to tell you a story that I've never publicly told, just because I just never really, really felt that time was right to really tell it. But I'm going to tell you something, and it concerns Bridget Nielsen and hybrid children. So I was watching her videos one night, and she was talking about the specific video I saw. She said, if you feel that you have hybrid children, before you go to sleep, a lot of times the best time to meet up with these beings are when we're sleeping. And as you well know, is while we're sleeping. So she said, say out loud that you want to meet your hybrid children, and you would like them to visit you while you sleep. And then you put out that intention before you go to sleep, and you think about this. And I thought, okay, what the heck, I'll do that. And so I thought, wouldn't that be interesting if I had some hybrid children out there? Because I've always felt a closeness. I mean, at a very young age, I was drawing extraterrestrials and UFOs in crayon, like on my bedroom walls and on the steps out in front of the house. And I didn't have any frames of reference for it. And so for the long, ever since I was a little kid, I've always been fascinated with this stuff. And so I said out loud, I said, listen, my extraterrestrial family, if I have any hybrid children, I would really like to visit them. They're welcome to visit me while I'm sleeping tonight. Well, I got to tell you, I woke up. Well, no, I'll put it this way. It was early in the morning, and what felt like a dream, I glanced over to the right side of my room, and on the right side of my room, there's the dresser, and I see the dresser drawers, and there's a space between the dresser and the wall, and so in my dream, I look over there, and there's a tall, black hooded being that its head almost reached the ceiling, and so it was standing in the corner, and then next to it was probably like a 4 foot high, blue skinned, and I felt it was my daughter, a female extraterrestrial, and she had blue skin. The top of her head was bald, but the sides of her head, almost like you see like, well, what they call horseshoe baldness. So she was bald on the top, but on the sides and the back of her hair, it was almost like an auburn color. And because I've read that there are some extraterrestrial species that the males are completely bald, but the females have some hair. And so it was interesting. And she was wearing black, and she had a little hood on. But it was so interesting. I didn't expect to see that, and it blinked me awake, and they were gone. And so it was interesting because what I realized, what popped into my brain as I continued to think about this, was that the tall being was the little one's guardian. It was there to make sure I wasn't going to, I don't know, throw a shoe at it or something. And so I felt like that was her, that was my daughter, and that was her guardian. And so throughout this time, I've been like looking up blue skin aliens, and sometimes I see that Arcturians are blue skinned. Other times, I see that Arcturians aren't blue skinned, and then others are blue skinned. So I don't really know at this point, but I do feel very strong vibe that actually did happen. And I do have a hybrid child out there. And it's fascinating that, I've heard that extraterrestrials, if they feel that you're not ready for them, or if they feel that you're fearful of them, then they move away from you. But if you're welcome to them, you go, oh, yes. No, we're friendly here. We're friendly here. Just because you have these big, scary eyes doesn't mean I'm scared of you. That's just how you look. Let's be friends. Then they'll, move closer. Now, there are those circumstances, and the circumstances that you're explaining, where there you are throughout your lives, throughout the decades, and these beings would visit you. And did you feel terror each time?
Yeah, I did when I was until like I only stopped becoming scared within the past few years, when I found more positive information about it.
Right.
Because they usually, a lot of the information out there portrays them as having an evil agenda, potentially.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's the case, because if that were the case, I think I would have been influenced by the evil, and I'm far from evil. Like, I am a humanitarian. Like, from a young age, like, I had this drive to help others. That's why I studied social work and counseling. That's why I work in child protective services. I try to heal people. I send like loving, healing energy to everyone I meet. I'm very close to God. I am so close that I like when I meditate and focus on God, I physically feel the energy, the divine energy. So I don't think they're evil. Like, cause I saw info out there saying that, oh, they're really demons. They're not aliens, they're demons. I don't think that's the case.
I don't think so
I think
either.
they
Like
actually,
Dolores Cannon.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
Dolores Cannon always says that they're there for us. They're there to, they're there for us. They're there to help us. And, but then these other reports, especially like the U.S. military, they'll be like, oh yeah, we saw these unidentified aircraft. We have got to defend against them. Well, what about saying, hey, why don't you land here and let's learn about each other, instead of, oh, we got to figure out, how to make bigger missiles to bring those things down. It's like, that shouldn't be the direction we're going in. I'm sure if they wanted to destroy us, they would have done it a long time ago.
True.
If they were evil.
And when you there's like ancient texts from all over the world that describe encounters with otherworldly beings, and they had knowledge of advanced astronomy that they wouldn't have the means to know unless they were informed and taught. Like even when you read about the Sumerians, they spoke of the sky beings who came and taught them the human civilization. So I think that they're like, it's not that they're playing God, but I think they are on a mission to try to encourage civilizations to be good.
Yeah.
And try to help us. Like, granted, there's supposed to be free will, we're supposed to develop on our own, but I think they do influence in some way. And also they're probably monitoring us to make sure that we're not going to develop into beings that are a threat to the universe. And perhaps like with the hybrid children agenda, maybe it's because, or who knows, like maybe they're not even aliens because they do look humanoid. Like maybe they're from the distant future, and in our future we become infertile and they have to come back to the past to collect DNA.
That is a great way of looking at it. Wow.
Because that's something I was starting to suspect. And because when you think about it, like even already humankind's having infertility problems. If we keep injecting ourselves with chemicals and our food and pollution, that's the route, the timeline humanity seems to be going in. So
well,
I
it's
think
interesting too, because there are those examples where they stop, missiles from being able to launch from these missile bases, where all of a sudden UFOs will appear. There was one that I recently saw on TikTok where a missile was flying through the sky. A UFO came zipping over and blasted the warhead, zipped around, flew around, blasted the warhead again, and it flew off, and then the warhead just crashed. It just fell and crashed. The missile fell and crashed, and it was like, they don't want us destroying each other.
True.
It's been said that this is a school. They all got their eyes on us, and apparently this is the first from Dolores Cannon's discoveries that and Bashar and all these others, that Earth is a school, and this is the first time that beings have actually had a freedom of choice, where they've actually, lived in such a confined body, and being given such a heaping amounts of the illusion of just stuck here in this particular experience. And I guess that's the big gift, is that we get to unwrap, is that wonderful surprise of realizing that we're these limitless beings that just happen to be wearing these avatar outfits. And I think that's interesting. Any of the people who I've talked to, or that I see on TikTok or anywhere, who are psychics or clairvoyant, healers, all those wonderful things, empaths, they all seem to have these extraordinary stories of paranormal happenings. And there's something to be said about that when you actually see those commonalities, and it's something to be considered, and I think revered, because while you've been taken up there with your own training, and they're like, okay, you have to learn this lesson, who's to say that you're not actually activating those lessons, these things that come so naturally to you, like you're saying, the healing vibes, the way that you're able to meditate and plug right into that source energy. Who's to say that you're evidently using those superpowers that they were teaching you.
I think so, because I think they do want us to have correct consciousness and develop and enlighten. But I think the reason why the government tries to, say it's not real, or they try to make us fear it, is because unfortunately, humanity is run by a shadow government that wants to suppress us and keep us enslaved. They don't want our souls and our consciousness to enlighten and have us be free. And they really don't want that. They like being on top, having all the power, feeding off of our energy by instilling fear in us. So however, though, like they're selling us out, and we're a free will planet, so really we can't have people, other beings come in and rescue us completely. But I think they are like
I
this.
think so too. I frequently put out the intention that, it says our personal realities reflect our preferences, our joys, our excitements, our enthusiasm. And I like to believe that there are those who, at least I like to place these sort of characters into my reality experience, going, these people exist in these areas where they can help the most, in those governmental spots, and they're doing their best, and there's a lot of great stuff happening behind the scenes, and members of the Galactic Federation are up there doing the best that they can to try to turn things around and enlighten those who are maybe stuck in a narrow, limited sort of thinking. And I like to put out that possibility that those people that extraordinary things are happening behind the scenes, and all I have to do right now is, because I think for the longest time I felt like I had to save them from what, I don't know, it's themselves, I don't know, but I felt for the longest time like, oh gosh, I have to save these people from their self-destruction, from all this terrible stuff. And then I realized, wait, the only being I really actually truly need to be concerned about is me, and what I see and hear, and who I can talk to within this radius of my vision, hearing, and physicalness, and that is through how the world will change, because it's a microcosm, and so all those dominoes go out there anyway. So once I started just focusing that energy, I started seeing amazing manifestations. I started seeing astounding synchronicities popping up all over the place, which, and it's great. That was one of the things. I'm glad you're saying that, because that was one of the things I was going to ask you. Have you been noticing a lot of synchronicities throughout your life?
Yeah. Well, and actually, I've had other paranormal experiences too.
Oh my gosh, please tell me.
Like, for instance, I've had out of body experiences. And one that, like, the first time that I can recall of like my soul leaving my body was when I was only probably like 7 years old, because I wasn't ill at all. I wasn't sick. And I back then I thought it was a dream too, but now when I learn about astral projection, I realize, oh, maybe that wasn't a dream too. And so I remember suddenly, like, my soul is leaving my body. I feel like levitation, and then I looked down and I saw my own body laying in bed. I was wearing footsie pajamas. There was my canopy bed, and then a being I couldn't see, but then there was that telepathic communication, and a being was guiding me, saying, come, and come with me. And then suddenly a portal opened.
Wow.
In my bedroom. And
wow.
And then I was guided into the portal, and it was like a vortex, and like I remember like lots of colors, seeing a lot of colors, but then I don't remember like where I went to. But then I remember, like, later on, like, a part of my dream was that the portal opened up again back in my bedroom, and I was guided by, like sort of like an angel that I couldn't see. And then I saw my body again. I was told, oh, time to go back. And then I went back into my body.
Wow. Okay. So you remember going into the portal and then coming back through the portal. But what lies between is a mystery at this point.
Yeah. I don't know. I only recall like starting, like going through the portal and seeing a vortex of sort of like colors. And then I don't remember what went down, where it went, maybe another dimension. I don't know.
So did you, what kind of vibes were you feeling as you were approaching the portal, or while you're in it?
And I wasn't scared at all. It wasn't like the ETA encounters that used to terrify me. But I wasn't afraid at all. I was like, I felt peace.
Wow. Okay. So have there been other out of body experiences? Because that's always been something that's been intriguing to me as well. All this stuff, channeling, UFOs, you know, cryptids, out of body experiences. Have you had other out of body experiences?
And yes, because I mentioned I took a parapsychology class. Did I mention that?
Yes.
So like, which is the study of like psychic phenomena and just other, you know, unexplained phenomena. And I remember learning about astral projection. And then this was back when I was in college. My college actually offered a course in those studies. So that's when I started to think, oh wow, this
Wow.
paranormal stuff, you know, must be legitimate, considering my, like, it's something offered at a pretty prestigious college. And so I decided to experiment and try astral projection. And I recall I was like in college still, and I was about to take a trip to Florida. And I decided, okay, well, I want to see, I want to like check out where I'm going to be visiting before I go there. And so then that night I decided before falling asleep, I told myself, okay, I want to astral projection to where I'm going to be visiting on vacation. And then like, I had what seemed to be a dream of, you know, seeing the hotel room, seeing like some art in the hotel room, and then going to other places I visited. And I was shocked to later on when I went on that trip that the same piece of art that I was admiring in my dream was in that hotel room.
Astounding. That's, you know, what's so interesting is that you know, I'm sure there are quite a few. It sounds to me like there are quite a few years between when that time was where you went through the vortex and when you intentionally had the out of body experience.
Mm-hmm. And then not long ago, I tried it again, and I actually felt my soul like lifting out of the body, and then I got scared and went back because I was going to try it again, but then I got scared. But that was only like a few weeks ago when I decided, okay, I'm going to try it again.
Wow.
But yeah.
You know, it's so interesting. My whole life, I've wanted to. Those were some of the books that I'd read, and I always hope every night actually before I fall asleep, I hope that I'm going to have an astral projection. And as far as I know, I have not had one. However, I do have a lot of flying dreams, flying just in my body, just flying around, but also inside crafts, dreams where I'm seeing a lot of UFOs in the sky.
Yeah,
You know, a lot of those things, and so. You know, I remember having a dream. There was this reoccurring nightmare that I used to have where there was this long spiral staircase that went up to a little door that was slightly open, but it was shadows in there. And it was a dark, I guess, house. I don't know. But I just remember the staircase and going up the staircase, going up the staircase, and then going through the door and knowing that there might be something evil behind the door, but still going through that door. And then all of a sudden I'd hear this like, rah, 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 and something would like just envelop me. And the next thing I know, I'd find myself falling through, you know, space, through like a swirly purplish space, and then landing in my bed and feeling, you know, the best way I could describe it is kind of like when you hit your funny bone, or like when your arm falls asleep.
mm-hmm.
So I felt that all over my body, like that electricity of like, you know,
mm-hmm.
where you just feeling those vibes, and it feels like the way it feels the way a chainsaw sounds, if that makes sense. Just that like, and so then I'd wake up, and I almost felt like I would come out of this sort of paralysis. So I don't know if that was astral projection or what, but I've always been kind of curious about that. Now you just said that you've had some dreams as well where you've seen UFOs in the sky, huh?
Yeah. I've had many dreams about suddenly like the UFOs making themselves present to humanity, and like being like in many places of the world, showing themselves.
Wow. So you're you know, between that and you getting this idea from your hybrid children that they're here, you know, they're going to be help in saving humanity. And a lot of these ETs are also shapeshifters too. So, you know, there's no telling, maybe our neighbors, maybe the people at the cash register, maybe you never know who might be disguised as an extraterrestrial, or heck, one of our family members,
Mm-hmm.
one of our star family members. It's very intriguing that you got that message on those occasions where everything's going to be just fine. Are there other times where you've gotten that message in dreams, or just that
Uh,
hunch?
Unfortunately, like, and also another thing about dreams, I've had several premonitions as well.
Ooh, like what?
I've had dreams that came true, like I would dream detailed dreams and it would actually come true.
Wow, that is intriguing. So, it, okay, how many times has that happened?
Like probably, uh, maybe like, maybe close to like maybe 20 times,
So,
like
so 20
estimation.
times. I mean, that's a pretty good. I mean, you once you got 20 times of experiences in your brain, at that point, it's just like, okay, what's going to be my next order? What's going to be the next sandwich that I order here? Let me just write down the ingredients for the chef to cook up for me here.
Hmm.
What I mean, are you still activating this ability?
Uh, well, I hope not because I also like often have dreams of horrible natural disasters.
Oh,
And lately I've been dreaming about lots of volcanoes and I've been dreaming about like horrible catastrophic flooding of the oceans over the land, like tsunamis that like travel really far over the land masses.
you know, what's so interesting about this stuff is that we hear through these various spiritual guides, shaman, channelers, et cetera, et cetera. We hear a lot of times through these sources that we're blinking in and out of existence, a billion times a moment. There are all these multiverses, all these parallel universes out there, and they're all existing all at once, all at the same time. And it's the idea of shifting into those preferable realities that
Timeline.
are highest reflective of our
Mhm.
what we're magnetizing. So when I hear something like that, I think, okay, so many. I mean, it's so many things even beyond what my theories here are. But I'll just give a couple. One, that you're peering into a parallel universe where that's actually currently happening, where that's happening in a parallel universe. Maybe where it's saying like, okay, hey, guess what? It's going to be all right. You're living in the universe where this is not going to be happening. You're getting a peek into what could have been uh, uh, had you aligned your vibration in a different way. You could have been in here. Um, you could be being given a glimpse into the far far future, the far far past. Um, maybe it could be given a glimpse into look, this could be a reality if you don't choose more of what you actually prefer, and simply look forward to the reality that you do want to have. And because a lot of people could dwell in the things of like, oh gosh, I'm so worried that this horrible thing might happen, I'm so worried that might horrible thing, and little do they realize they're actually magnetizing that reality into that
True.
experience. So this is very intriguing to hear these kinds of things that you're telling me. um Gosh, it's amazing because when people, by the time I upload this and when people hear this, um it's going to be a beacon and magnetize. This is going to be like that SOS signal to all those people out there who also have experienced these kinds of things. And I'd like to believe, and my intention is that they are going to feel much better about
Hmm.
themselves. They're going to be able to feel a little more calm, a little more relaxed, and that they weren't crazy, and that they weren't dreams, and that maybe they will consider talking to their therapist about these things, or maybe they will consider talking to an open-minded friend about these kinds of things, because uh, when you have an open space, I like to use the analogy of like the break dancer on the open cardboard floor. It's like when the cardboard is inviting you to break dance on it, and that there's not going to be, you got plenty of elbow room. You're not going to kick anyone. You're gonna, you could do what you want. It's a safe zone. Okay, break dancer, come on out there and go ahead and do those knee spins, do those helicopters, do that, do the centipede. And I like to believe that is something that people will feel that openness too, whether they are like, okay,
Mhm.
here's that open space. I'm going to go ahead and just spill it. And who knows, maybe it'll invite more experiences. I mean, after this conversation, um, you might have more visitations, and maybe they'll provide you with some more information and go, hey, that's so great you said that. That's so great you put that energy out there, because all of those star seeds that are hiding out there who feel the same, and or even extraterrestrials who are in disguise, and they hear that and they go, yep, we're doing a job well done, or oh, I'm so glad that she shared that. There's so many ways that this could go. I mean, this conversation is someone else's dream out there. Someone else out there is having a dream of people, of two people, you and I, talking about this right now. I mean,
Yeah.
that stuff just fascinates me.
True. And it is time for humanity to expand consciousness and become in touch with knowledge of the intergalactic community, because all of creation is related and connected, including extraterrestrials. And where creation is one, and it's huge, as you know, and there's many possibilities, many different timelines that could manifest. So we need to uplift the human consciousness, and I believe there's a collective consciousness.
Yeah.
And we really need to make changes so that we can be on a positive timeline, since there's many different outcomes that could happen. And that's something that's something I do recall being told by those beings. It's important for humanity to change their ways, because there could be some catastrophic that could manifest if we, don't focus on the positive, and create a positive collective consciousness. And we got to stop this oppression, stop the fear, stop the hate. It's just ridiculous that there is even wars. I think it's just, the divide and conquer agenda of the evil elite, that they create all these wars and stuff. And we are just one race. All the the superficial differences of the way we look, just because of adaptation to different climates of the world. It's just ridiculous. Also, we could very well be born, our soul could have many lives and as many different races.
Yeah.
There truly aren't races, and who even cares about our our physical vehicles we use to get around this realm? We all have souls, and if our souls are able to reach a certain level of consciousness, then we can graduate to a better realm. I believe Earth, like what Dolores said, that Earth is indeed a school for the souls, and I think we're in a school for the bad kids,
Yeah.
the ones that have to purge a lot of trauma. I mean, karma. I really think our souls need to evolve a lot more so that we can have a peaceful existence.
Well, it's interesting that you're saying this, and you just brought up Dolores Cannon, because one of the questions I was going to ask you is, what are your thoughts about the New Earth stuff that she talks about, and other spiritual, teachers and channelers talk about, that idea that we are splitting into, two different Earths. One where it's going to be that sort of, as it's been called, the 3D mentality, the us versus them, the competition aspects, the war, lack of abundance kind of mindset, that's going to stick on one Earth, whereas the other enlightened beings, the ones who realize that we're just wearing these sort of costumes, here, and we're just these infinite spiritual beings, and those are the folks who are going to kind of scoot over to another Earth. What are your thoughts about that?
And I think they should have described it in simpler terms. So it is just in physics, there's just many possibilities that energy can manifest, and really everything's just energy. And it's just a matter of manifesting a more positive timeline if we lift our consciousness to, focus on that so we can manifest it.
And you know what? And it's very interesting. This is something I always tell my friends whenever we get into conversations, and suddenly all these synchronicities are flying around all over the place. And the more that I find myself celebrating and getting excited about the synchronicities, the more that it's like, oh wow, they like that one. Okay, then let's really bedazzle them with this one. I noticed that in those situations when you're talking about this stuff and it's heightening it's heightening the synchronicities. It's heightening the excitement between the people talking. It's heightening the enthusiasm. And then you carry that vibration through the day. And then you start even seeing more of these synchronicities. You start coming across more people who are more, enlightened, I should say, and in tune to those kinds of channels. And so when I look at those examples, and especially, with just two people, it's very powerful. And then when you bring another person in there, or let's say you got 5 people all geeking out about this and all sharing their synchronicities, and it just you just feel it. You just feel just that vibration rising. Imagine if you got a whole, like I frequently look at, like, let's say Soldier Field or any of these huge stadiums with football games or baseball games or something. I go, oh my gosh, this situation here is so close to something so magnificent, but they're just slightly askewed. If all the energy, it's like the vibe of all these people cheering on, collectively, collaboratively, cooperatively going, yes, feeling joy, feeling all this excitement. However, where they get it wrong is that there are 2 sides, and it's us versus them. So it's like, okay, now let's subtract us versus them. And what if we had a whole stadium filled with these people who are so excited and so happy about raising the peace, so happy about raising the amount of synchronicities coming in, so excited about opening up, portals of health to their bodies and to their friends and family, and looking forward to encouraging their friends, neighbors, strangers on doing the best that they can with what they got. Oh my gosh, could you imagine having so many people just focusing that thing? Oh my gosh, that would just be absolutely amazing. And I bet you all kinds of miracles would be sprouting up throughout that day. I bet you all kinds of UFO sightings would be sprouting up that day if an event like that were to occur.
And like I mentioned previously, like there is definitely a collective consciousness, and we could influence that.
Yeah.
So when people are on a higher vibration, they influence others. They influence a collective consciousness. Every day I try to meditate, and I focus on sending intentions to the collective consciousness of peace, unity, love, freedom, abundance for all. Also, clean energy, save the earth, and purge this. Like, don't comply to evil, purge the evil. Then I really believe that that's the way to go about bringing humanity to that ideal timeline.
I think so too. It's so interesting when the quarantine first happened, there was this online event called the Harmonic Convergence, and it happened on Facebook, and it was for a full week. And every morning, we would meditate for, I think it was 11 minutes, and then at night, it was 11:20. I think it was at 11:23 in the morning. We would meditate, and then at 11:23 at night. I think that's what it was. But it was so great because all day online, this event, which originally was going to be during a real live thing, little did the organizer realize that this quarantine would happen, and it would work out even better because everyone's at home. There's no distractions, well, so to speak, and everyone could just tune into this thing. And there were shaman, there were Amazon rainforest, I don't want to say witch doctors necessarily, but Amazon rainforest, people talking about the star family and how for millennia, all these stories were passed down from generation to generation. It's like, yeah, that isn't strange. That's nothing new to us. We learned how to live from our star family. We learned how to cook. We learned how to, all this stuff from our star family. And then you got people who are, who know a lot about how the hearts talk to each other. You had people who talked a lot about how the consciousness of water worked, and all from all these different perspectives. And then you found all these extraordinary commonalities between these revelations. And it felt so good. And these things can still be accessed on that Facebook Harmonic Convergence. You can actually still see all those videos. So imagine waking up at or waking up and then doing that high vibration, and you're knowing all these people. There are at least 700 or 800 people online at one time. At least some people coming, some people going, and knowing that 700 of those people at least would do this collective meditation. And the meditations at night, the meditations were to what he called it. And you've probably heard of the CE5, right? Have you heard of the CE5?
No.
So Stephen Greer, Dr. Stephen Greer invented this thing called the CE5, which was Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, which was a group meditation with intentional UFO sightings. And that's a whole, like, so he takes out little groups, and they go out, and every time they send out these frequencies, they put out the intention of seeing UFOs, and sure enough, every time UFOs show up in the sky from the CE5 protocol that they do. In fact, there's an app, and I have the app downloaded. You can get the CE5 app, and it gives you the directions on how to do it. And plus, you could do a locator device thing where you can find other people in your area who have the app, and you could do your own CE5s with these people out in the park at night, maybe while you're camping out in the desert, at your own house, and just bringing these extraterrestrials about. So cut to this guy, Mark Sims. He was the one who put together this harmonic convergence, and he did the CE5 experience with Stephen Greer, and he was inspired by this. And what happened was, after doing the CE5 and then seeing the extraterrestrials up there in the sky and everything, he decided to do one by himself in his hotel bedroom during that night. And a being, sure enough, showed up and gave him all of this information, told him all of this stuff. And that's where he got the visions for the harmonic convergence. And that was, 5 years before the harmonic convergence. And so he had visions of this thing. And so he decided to follow through with the plan and everything. And so he called the harmonic convergence the CE6, which was Close Encounters of the, basically worldwide kind. So he wanted to bring about worldwide UFO sightings. And so each night throughout the 7-day event, we did the meditation, and we'd open our eyes, we'd look in the sky, and many people saw UFOs in their skies. I didn't during that time, but then again, maybe I didn't have a clear enough sky to see it, but there were a lot of people during that time. And then they'd have a Zoom call where you could go on there with the people, and everybody could share their, there would be a host, and everybody could share their exciting stories. And I met a lot of people through this, and I interviewed them through the podcast. And but it was just such an amazing experience. And it was so funny because I looked online, and during that month of, I can't remember if it was March or May, but during that month, during the MUFON, MUFON, right?
Yeah, I heard of that. Yep.
Yeah. So MUFON, the UFO community, they had marked that during that month, there were more UFO sightings that month than there had been in the previous year. So evidently, that worldwide intentional CE6 actually worked, and it was recognized, by MUFON. And little did they realize that this whole harmonic convergence was going on. So it felt so good, and it was just so amazing. So yeah, I encourage you to go on to Facebook, look for the they might still have the website up where you can see the videos too. It's I think it's THC I think it's THC420.com. I think the harmonic convergence. I think that was the site, and I think you could go there and you can still see the videos. And what was cool was I'd show up to a lot of these Zoom things, and I got to know some of these folks, and they gave me they let me see like this Google Doc, and they asked me if I wanted to help out with categorizing, because there were people who could go to the website and they could put up there it was a survey. They could put on the survey whether they had UFO sightings in the past, whether they had encounters during the harmonic convergence, all this stuff. And so I was one of the people who was able to kind of take all of these stories that people had entered and kind of go, categorize them. Okay, this was a story from the past. This was during the harmonic convergence. So it was amazing to hear all these worldwide stories, and it was just, it felt so good.
Wow, it's amazing. And then also, if you want to see UFOs, did you ever hear ley lines?
I have.
They're energy, like vortexes, like the energy grids around our world. And there's certain points where a lot of those energy grids crisscross. And so they're like a high energy vortex, and a lot of times the wormholes connect there. And because like space travel is done through wormholes. And that's where you'll see a lot of UFOs too. And I learned that from my parapsychology professor. And learned about certain locations where a lot of those ley lines intersect, and they're high energy points, wormhole locations where you are prone to seeing a lot of UFOs. And actually, my professor said that a lot of people used to actually see a lot of UFOs around where I went to college in New Hampshire.
Whoa.
Also, like there's places like Sedona, Arizona. That's a location too. To Arizona and saw UFO while I was in Arizona, but I happened to be in Phoenix, and I remember like I couldn't sleep, and I was just sitting out on my balcony in Phoenix, and I definitely saw a UFO right over Phoenix.
Wow.
And right at dawn, it like suddenly, like it was just hovering there. So I knew it was no helicopter because it was just hovering there. And right at dawn, when the sun started to rise, it like suddenly, I watched it like take off, like suddenly rapidly like move out of view.
That's amazing. Did you feel closeness to it? Did you feel familiarity as perhaps that might have been one of the ships that you had been taken aboard throughout your life?
I didn't necessarily think it was like one of the ones, because I didn't really I actually, for once, I didn't feel fear too, because I used to always fear it. But I did definitely, I see it, and I was wondering if it was like the same type of gray aliens, but I didn't think it was necessarily the ones that often was experimenting on me.
So and how far away was it from you, would you say? Like, was it clear? Was it visible? Was it like a little saucer in the sky? Far away? Was it?
It was just I couldn't see that it was like a saucer, but it was definitely just one bright light, and it was no star. It's definitely not a star, especially since it was just hovering stationary for so long, and then at dawn for it to just suddenly take off, like it just moved at like rapid speed and like disappeared.
Now, what do you remember during that day, during your time in Phoenix? Was there anything that you can think of, maybe perhaps any interesting conversations that might have been in that paranormal aspect? I guess what I'm curious about here is if there's a key within your conversation earlier that day that might have beckoned them to come by and visit you later that night.
No. Or actually, you know what? Now that I think about it, like there was always times when like I always felt like, oh, like maybe if I'm like somewhere else on the globe, then this definitely won't be a night where I could potentially be taken. But I think that thought crossed my mind.
Ooh, wow. That's intriguing. Wow, that's very intriguing. Wow.
Yeah, because because it happened so many times, like I said, from age range of approximately 6 to about like 40. In which it happens like so many times, but sporadically. And so I never know when it could happen. I remember always like at times when I'm about to visit a different part of the globe, maybe I won't be taken from here. This is a night I can potentially guarantee that it won't happen.
Whoa. Okay. So were there any other times like that? Now, since we're talking about this, I wonder if there's a through line here. Any of those other places that you visited, do you ever remember seeing UFOs?
And actually, when I was in New Hampshire, I did end up seeing, when I was like driving on like a back road, I did see what seemed to not be a plane, because it was a bright light, and then it lowered into the woods, and I just kept on driving. I was like I don't really like seeing this stuff.
Whoa. So now, was that during the time that you were going to school out there?
Yep, that was when I was in college.
So that so that correlated. Was that when you were taking the parapsychology class?
And actually I think it was maybe before. I'm trying to
Okay.
think what year I took the parapsychology class. And my professor said that there was often sightings in New Hampshire.
So okay.
And also,
wow.
did you ever hear of the abduction of Barney and Betty Hill?
Yes.
That took place in New Hampshire too.
Yes. And it's amazing. Oh my God. There are three things I got to say here. Is one, my buddy, one of my best friends, his name is Jeff Finn. He's now actually directing a documentary about Jim Morrison, called Before the End, Searching for Jim Morrison. He made a movie called Strange Septembers, and it was about the Barney and Betty Hill Exeter abduction. He made a whole documentary about it. And so it's interesting that you're bringing that up. It's really interesting you're bringing that up. Which of course only makes sense because he's the guy who actually found an implant in his foot. So there are a lot of interesting correlations here. The other thing is, oh wow. The other thing is, I want to ask you, throughout those decades of you being abducted, had you moved to different locations through those decades, or were you generally in the same town?
And actually though, so I had encounters at my current house, which is in a different area from where I grew up.
Oh.
But it was all within the same state.
Oh, okay.
But the thing is, I think maybe the implants is like a tracking device, so they probably potentially could find me anywhere.
Yes, it's been said that that's a tracking device, much like when they tag cows, so they go, oh, that's the same cow from this time period. See, that's what's interesting, because it's like within those implants, since it's such a big mystery, and many folks agree that it is a tracking device. It's also quite possible that it's just downloading whatever your thoughts are, your feelings. I mean, maybe it's looking through your very own eyes. The implants. Maybe they're looking through our very own eyes, using us as a camera. Getting to sort of learn maybe there's a virtual reality headset or something that they put on where they're like, whoa, I am now looking through the eyes, of this person, and really been able to experience this thing, since, as it's been said, a lot of these extraterrestrials, they don't have emotions. And that's why a lot of people, when they say with these abductions, why it seems like they're cold, they're heartless, they're emotionless. Well, they are emotionless. They're a different kind of they're a different kind of being, and so they don't know what it's like. Let's say, for instance, the scientists who are operating on, I don't know, some creature where they think that it doesn't have nerves, or it doesn't feel something, or but that creature could very well be feeling pain, but the humans who are operating on that don't know. Or so it's quite interesting when we think about that aspect of things, where it's almost like that idea of like, it's nothing personal. I mean, yeah, in a sense it's personal, because you personally are the person that we picked to bring up here, but it's not like, oh, we're here to torture you. We don't have you on this operating room slab to torture you. We are here to, maybe, like you said, save future humanity. We're trying to save you by taking your eggs, by taking your, sperm, and going, let's put it into this little creature, into your child, and help save the future.
And I may interject. So another thing that I'm came across, do you know the show Ancient Aliens?
Yes, and I still have yet to see an episode, and I hear it's phenomenal.
So that has been making me come to more realizations too, because on that show, they actually had an episode in which they mentioned that perhaps they're targeting certain family lines, and like for like thousands of years they've been visiting humanity, but they're like tracking certain family lines. And also they mentioned that a lot of people who are prone to being abducted have Rh negative blood. And you know what? I have Rh negative blood.
Oh, I was wondering.
Yes, it's a very rare blood type.
Yeah.
Only about 10% of the human population has Rh negative blood. And what the Rh factor is that humanity like was had some primate ancestors, and the Rh positive blood, it means that there's like a protein on the surface of the blood cell that was actually a protein passed down from primates. And people who are Rh negative do not have that inherited protein from primates.
Wow. So this is intriguing, because now I'm starting to think, wow, wouldn't that be cool to do a documentary on find all the people who have the Rh blood, interview them, and just
Rh
to
negative.
see,
Yeah.
Rh negative, see if there are these commonalities of paranormal experiences, clairvoyance, out-of-body experiences, ESP, et cetera, and so forth. All those, supernatural, paranormal superpowers that tend to circulate among people like yourself.
Mm-hmm. And my mother also has Rh negative blood.
Oh boy.
And like we have synchronicities in which like we practically have telepathy. Yeah. And,
whoa.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, then my next question has to be, has your mom ever told you, or have you ever asked her what her thoughts, well, I guess a few things, what her thoughts are about UFOs, if she's ever had a UFO sighting, and if she hasn't had a UFO sighting, what if someone were to tell her a story about seeing a UFO, what her thoughts would be about that?
She doesn't want to believe it. And actually, I think they did have a UFO sighting, because about I think like 5 years ago or so, my parents told me about how there was like this strange, like bright blue light that suddenly they was shining by their house.
Oh boy.
And I told my mom maybe it was a UFO, and she's like, no, it was probably a transformer exploded somewhere or something. But there was nothing in the paper about like a issue with a transformer on the electrical line exploding anywhere in town. And
whoa.
so, yeah,
the pieces are coming together for me in my own. I mean, it's always easier for the observer to kind of look at someone's story and kind of look at these elements and these threads between how you connect them into a constellation, if you will. And sometimes it's harder for the person who's actually in the experience to actually see these pieces and the way they connect, because you're giving me a gold mine here in terms of it's quite possible. I just have a feeling that maybe your mom, if you two share the same Rh blood,
Rh negative,
Rh negative blood, and they've had that blue UFO sighting, or the blue flash as they call it, it's quite possible that they did see the UFO, and they're just both trying to trick themselves into believing that it was just some kind of it was just a flash of lightning, or something. I would not be surprised if your mom is just too scared to tell her story.
I think so. Because she's also someone who has like a high profile job, and like she's retired now, but she was head of marketing at a big bank, and so she would not want to compromise her reputation.
Wow.
So also another thing that you'll find intriguing, and I did too, and that's when I started to realize, another thing that triggered me to realize, oh my gosh, they're not dreams. So my son, who's now 13, when he was younger, when like around 7 and stuff, he started telling me, describing the same time.
Oh boy. You are giving me.
And he drew, when he was younger, he drew pictures of the aliens too.
Oh my. Okay. Oh gosh.
But I didn't. But I feel terrible. But I didn't tell him. I just like let him lead to like believe that there was dreaming, because I couldn't bring myself to tell him, about aliens, because I didn't want him to get scrutinized if he started talking about it in school and stuff.
Oh my gosh, you are just giving me, so this is, I feel like I followed the rainbow and I found this gold, all the gold. You are, I can't tell you how satisfied I am right now, how excited I am, and my body is tingling right now. Like this vibration is like my hands, my body is tingling.
Well, remember I told you, like, my intuition told me to like contact you and for us to do this.
I'm so blessed.
And I kept having synchronicities with you on TikTok, because every single time I went on TikTok, I would encounter you.
Oh my gosh.
Like we would end up like commenting on the same videos. Like because I would just recognize, because you had the same picture for the longest time.
Yes.
For your profile picture, and I would like constantly come across you.
Oh my gosh.
And then I happen to like post comments that you responded to, and like over like long lapses of time, like we would end up like encountering and like chatting again on TikTok. And so then like I think this guy might be high profile and I think it's time to like get it out there for humanity, this info that we're talking about now.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I'm so happy that you felt I was safe enough to open up these doors to, because wow, man, this is like the secret garden. Like I'm like, and it's like, what? Look at this wondrous world. Oh my gosh. So, okay. So then I got to ask you, this is just like, I got to ask you then, okay. So how old is your son now? You said 7?
13.
Oh, 13.
Now 13.
You said when he was 7, he started drawing the aliens and stuff, right?
Yeah.
So,
and tell me about the dreams of being taken.
So he would tell you those dreams.
And he would wake up screaming, and then he would be scared to go to bed at night because he would think that they would be coming back for him. Whoa.
Okay. So during those times, what thought processes were going through your mind? What thought processes were going through your mind when that was going on?
Complete empathy, since I went through it. And that's when I definitely knew for sure that, like, I mean, it's not hereditary to have certain weird dreams, it's, but I still didn't tell him about the alien things. I think when he's an adult, we'll have that conversation.
So, and it might be good just to even ask him more about any of those experiences, because since he's still young enough to not disregard it as myth, it's the closer they are to the younger age is when you're really going to find out about those stories of the past lives of the extraterrestrial visitations, et cetera, ghost sightings, all that stuff. So, I just want to plant the seed in your brain to maybe ask him, just, I was just thinking the other day, how you tell me those stories, or you draw those extraterrestrials. What else can you remember of those times? It'd be interesting.
I did. Yeah, I did.
You did?
Yep. But he doesn't recall as much. Like, not everyone, like, usually, like, their memories are like wiped clean by the entities, but for most people. But I recalled a lot. But he recalls like some, but he didn't recall as many details as I did.
Wow, this is incredible. Okay, so at those moments when he'd wake up freaking out about these dreams, you must have thought to yourself, whoa, this is quite interesting that they are now visiting my son. Like, they weren't just here. They visited my son. They were just here, and they chose my son to visit rather than me.
Yeah, then now they're going. Yeah, because I think maybe now my eggs aren't as good anymore or something. I don't know. And maybe they're like already at a young age. There's like the body. I don't know if they're collecting his sperm or just his DNA in general.
So,
and know what? I think over time, like the reason, like the fact that I don't know if he's Rh negative too. I don't think he's Rh negative, because when I was pregnant, and they did my blood test and found out I was Rh negative, I had to take what I think they were called Rogan shots to keep my body from killing him because of the completely because Rh positive blood and Rh negative blood don't mix, and so. Wow. They had maybe took that shot, but he might be Rh negative, but might not be because he when he was born he was jaundice, and that could have been because my blood mixed with his.
So, okay, were there any? Okay, now this is what's making me wonder: is throughout the decades of you being visited. Now that you're telling me that your son has been visited, were there any times that you can recall where your visitation matched up synchronistically with his visitation on the same night?
No. Nope, I don't recall him telling me it happened to him at the same night I had the same encounter. And then, and for me, the older I got, the fewer times it would happen.
Right,
a lot.
right.
Like it happened more often when I was actually more so during my childhood and teens, and then more sporadically during my 20s, 30s, and then I think age 40 was the last time I can recall. And that time they didn't take me in the ship. They can't, like I said, the being was standing over me and had held the device over me, and I felt like an electrical charge that was painless go through me, and I was telepathically told I'm being healed.
Wow. Okay, now when that instance happened, how close was that in the timeline of when you were pregnant with your son, or after he was born, or I'm kind of curious if there's any matchup in there.
Nope, because he was already that happened that last encounter was about 1.5 years ago.
Okay, that's right. Wow. Okay, so now how many times a year would you say that you were visited?
And so it's been fewer instances, so that was the last time I can recall.
Well, let's say since you were a child.
Since I was a child?
Yeah,
I can't really and it was probably
or how many times
I'll try to estimate how many times a year, because it wasn't too often. So I would say during childhood, maybe 4 times a year.
Wow.
And then the older I got, it was less frequent, which is weird. You would think they would want me when I was the most fertile and stuff. But the thing is, females have eggs from birth, since in utero, the female bodies already have eggs.
Incredible. You know what? I'm just saying it. I'm getting the vibe. Your mom has got to have been visited, and maybe she's been waiting for the perfect time to tell you about it. Maybe
I don't know.
she's thought
No,
that
because
you would think she was crazy if she was to tell you.
She thought I was crazy to propose that. Maybe the bright blue light that they couldn't explain that they saw over their house. When I said, "Oh, it was probably a UFO," then she dismissed that really fast.
Well, and that's most likely because she was afraid to talk. That you were probably striking a zone there that was just way too close to home. I mean, this is a theory in my brain. Maybe you struck a zone so close to home where she's like, oh no, it can't be that, because maybe that brought back some memories of when she was visited.
Maybe, I don't know.
Where she's like, oh no, let's get as far away from that subject as possible. No, let's not talk about that. How about that weather? So was your dad ever in the military?
No, but and that just reminded me, remember something though. So I did have a friend who actually she was the one who brought up the topics, because her dad was in the Air Force, in the high ranking in the Air Force, and she told me that soon before he died, he disclosed to them that UFOs are real.
Oh boy.
Alien contact is real, it's going on. The military is highly aware. He's not allowed to say, but since he was dying, he told them all.
Oh my gosh.
So then I told her, I responded, you know what? Ever since I was a little girl, I've had dreams about being abducted by aliens. And she told me, you probably weren't dreaming.
See, oh my gosh. See, there it is. Yeah, that must have felt good for you to know that someone out there validated this thing.
Yeah.
Even if you didn't come close, just by going, you know what, I've had dreams of this thing. And you open yourself up to that brief moment where you go, I'm going to share this thing, and just say it, oh, it was a dream. But then for her to bounce that back to you and go, those probably weren't dreams. That must have really got some gears turning.
Yep.
This is interesting because there's a person I had met on TikTok. They were posting a lot of UFO sightings. I mean, almost daily. And just like what you're saying, it was like a light in the sky. And no matter where they were, that light was up in the sky. And I said, I got to interview you. So first they started direct messaging me on TikTok and telling me like paragraphs of stories. And so I interviewed them. I ended up finding out. And the reason why I'm bringing this up, because it coalesces with what you're saying here with the generations of, they follow bloodlines. So this person, so I interviewed him and they told me that their grandpa used to be in the Air Force and he was part of the fire department. And there was a time where a UFO crashed and they called him out to put out this fire, but it was like a blue flaming, like it wouldn't go out. This fire wouldn't go out. And he said he saw these poor, extraterrestrial bodies that were sort of these humanoid bodies that were like badly burnt and stuff. And he was ordered not to talk about it. And it took hours and hours for them to figure out how to put out this particular fire. And there were all these newspaper clippings that his dad would save. And then he talked about how his dad would have these UFO sightings and how, in fact, at his sister's wedding, there was a UFO sighting. And then it went on to him having all these UFO sightings. And so I thought this is quite incredible because this is another example of a person who just didn't feel comfortable with talking to, to I don't want to necessarily use the term normies, or as I guess in Harry Potter you'd use the term muggles. He didn't feel good with sharing this kind of information with the people out there who would most likely go, oh, that's a bunch of BS. Oh, that's just some funny sci-fi story that you made up, isn't it? Because there's nothing worse than being vulnerable about a situation and someone just kind of, knocking that out of your hands and going, that's a whole lie. That's a big lie. And then you go, oh, and you walk out of the conversation with the tail between your legs. So it's interesting when you find these things that match up so perfectly and you find these stories. I have a feeling, especially after this conversation, we're going to see a lot of more synchronicities. We're going to, people are going to call us out of the blue, or people are going to, find us on TikTok, or we're going to see something on TikTok where it matches up exactly with our conversation, or some YouTube videos can go and, show up there for us. This stuff just intrigues me. Now, do you think that your son still has dreams and maybe he's just not telling?
I'm wondering if that's the case. He hasn't mentioned it lately, and I think he would tell me though. So I think maybe he just doesn't recall if it is happening, because most people who have these encounters, like all those people you mentioned who saw UFOs, they most likely were abducted, but most people's memories are wiped clean of it. And I don't know how I managed to not, purge that info, that I, kept it retained. Like, usually they intend to like wipe your mind clean of that.
Yeah, because a lot of these people, it's usually during quantum hypnosis, quantum healing hypnosis technique, or other hypnosis, that they're able to then recall those moments in time that they never even realized that they had. And, that is unique for those few people like yourself who are able to recall pretty vividly, not just one, quote, dream, unquote, but many. And that's very impressive. And so when was the last time that you brought that up to your son, where you said, hey, you remember when you told me about the, you draw the, did you save any of those? Did you save any?
I did save one. Yeah. Because one was actually drawn well, because he takes after me, because I'm artsy too. I was drawing since I was little, and like, yeah, and it definitely depicted an alien. And one thing is, like, I wonder if they are altering our genes, like considering like the Rh negative factor and only 10% of the humanity has it. That must have been, an alteration of our genes. And then also I have other odd genetics, like a good genetic though, but like I'm not aging normally. Like people I don't like toot on my own horn, but people think I'm in my 20s, but I'm 40.
Astounding.
And yeah, so I'm aging really slowly. I'm really tall. I have hypermobile joints, which is weird.
What does that mean?
Like all my joints hyperextend, like a contortionist. Like,
whoa.
Yeah. What else is odd about me? Oh, I always have a low body temperature, like a lot lower than average body temperature. So for me, like my average body temperature is usually like around like never 98.6. It's usually ranges from like 96 to 97, and it's always that low, which is weird.
Wow.
Like even during the summer, like I've been going places where, they're taking the temperature throughout the summer too, when it, like I just was out in the heat, and then they take my temperature and it's still low, which is weird. It's because you would think during the summer it would be
so
higher.
Definitely born of a different breed. I mean, wow, what an intriguing, this whole, the interesting is, because I've been, ever since I started putting out the Dolores Cannon videos, I've been, luckily, and I'm so grateful for it, is, more and more people talking about being star seeds, about going aboard crafts, about their past lives, their future lives, all this interesting stuff. And it's also bringing about people who are also quantum healing hypnosis therapists. And so it's starting to make me wonder, have you thought about, because I could easily put you in contact with, like there's one called Daily, there's a woman named Daily, and she's always sharing her.
Yeah, I met her, and actually she was willing to give me a free session, but no, it's crazy. Because I noticed that she charges people usually, but she was going to give me a free session. But then I was thinking to myself, what if someone who's a skilled hypnotist hypnotizes someone to keep coming back and paying for the hypnotism services?
That's interesting.
So that's why I didn't trust it, so I didn't do it.
Oh my gosh, that's funny. Yeah, you never can, you never know with
people. Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, thanks for telling me all that interesting information. And before we before we close this up, just remember to keep calling back every week, for another hypnosis session. Okay, now you're coming back to normal in 5, 4.
Yep.
When I snap this, you'll forget this. Oh my gosh, that's funny. That is funny. Yep. Well, she seems very authentic to me, and very legitimate, and very she seems like a very because she's always sharing the stories of the people that she's come across. And I don't know, I feel that she is a quality, authentic person. And I think that, who knows, I mean, since you're already able to remember so much of this stuff, I just have a feeling that you'd be able to access it really, really fast, and memories and experiences would just come flooding in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because maybe it would be good to know, like, what were they making me learn, and
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, I am someone, like, I think they are trying to help humanity, because not that I'm a Mother Teresa, like I was, real naughty in my past, but like I changed, in which I'm like someone who truly wants to help others. Like I said, I studied social work and counseling. I work in child protective services. I help people through their trauma. I deal with horrible situations. I see the darkness of humanity. So I hope the aliens aren't looking through my eyes, like you indicated. Oh, maybe they could with the implants, because I'm really like diving into the darkness of humanity and trying to help people come out of it.
Yes. Well, I mean, it would be interesting if there were, knowing if extraterrestrials, or at least certain breeds, from what I understand, the Greys don't have they don't have emotions. They don't feel what we feel.
Maybe they're robots. Maybe they're
quite possible. That's quite possible.
Maybe they're,
So it would be interesting for them to experience what it is like to live as a human, to You know, it's like, okay, we don't know what that's like. So what would be the best way? Okay, sort of this virtual reality type of, you know, situation where we can sort of live through their eyes. We can hear their thoughts. We can, you know, see and feel and hear what they're dealing with. So we can study what's going on in this Earth school in a much more personal way, in a very much more personal way, rather than just from the skies, or just from what we've learned from taking them aboard the craft, or just from whatever we've watched through their television, or just whatever we've read through their National Geographic magazines. You know, what is the most personal way that we could, oh, okay, well, let's really put ourselves into their shoes. And, you know, maybe that implant, once you go and it's taken out, then it shuts it off. They're like, oh man, you know, my cable's been shut off. You know, oh man, you know.
Or may I interject? So maybe the star seed thing is real, and who knows? Maybe I am one. Like maybe my soul is had experiences in other realms, and
I think so,
and is a little more enlightened, considering I'm someone who wants to help people so much. Maybe, and Dolores Cannon spoke of, the waves of volunteers to come help people ascend. And that's exactly, I think I'm doing my mission if that's the case, because I'm out there, like I have conversations with people all the time to try to uplift their consciousness and in my line of work. And I'm, throughout the years of working in social work, I've been helping many, many, many people. And I'm also like meditating, like I said, and sending those, high vibrations and trying to influence the collective consciousness with those intentions to manifest the positive timeline. So maybe I could be a starseed then, and I'm on a mission here.
I think so. And there's no, that's what's interesting. Let's say, for instance, you do a QHHT session. You could be able to find out what species, you're directly related to through that experience, to find out, okay, are you Pleiadian? Are you Arcturian? Are you, Martian? Are you, what could you be coming from? What was your home planet?
And actually, I'm sorry to cut you off. No. So one time I saw this woman who's like a renowned psychic, like out there, in which people from all over the world visit her, and she told me I'm Pleiadian.
Oh boy, there we go. Wow. Okay, so this is good. And if you haven't done
back
it already,
then, I didn't really know what she was talking about.
Oh my gosh, this is.
So I looked it up. Yeah.
Good. You have so okay. So you've been studying up on the Pleiadians.
Yeah, and it does describe me because I'm super creative. I've always been artistically inclined when it comes to since I was really young. Like I've to drawing, painting, playing the piano, and like known to be very creative and artistic. I'm very right-brained. I have the biggest heart, and that describes how they are.
Oh my gosh. All the it's so interesting when I realize that each person is their own universe, they're their own world, and that's why I love interviewing people, because to be able to take them down these, because first of all, many people are not even asked about themselves in this day and age. Most people just want to be heard. They want to make sure that you hear their point, and you're going to convert over to their opinion. Very few cases are people actually wanting to learn about one another and wanting to go down that rabbit hole and find those roots behind why their actions are the way that they are, or why they might have these certain things that they're drawn to. So I love taking people through a rabbit hole of their own historical timeline, and taking them through this amazing museum, this gallery of all these instances, all these stories, where now they can start putting these pieces together and going, whoa, look at this. This is making sense. This is making sense. And I love going on that journey with them. It's funny because it's like, in a sense, I'm a tour guide for them, but really I'm the passenger. I'm just kind of going, oh, can we look over there? Oh, what's that over there? Huh? Tell me more about this, and it's like, so this is just so exciting to me. And I love the fact you're sharing this with me. Thank you so much. One of the things that I want to ask you real quick is, and this is my theory, is perhaps your son also has an implant. And if he goes into the doctor and they do an X-ray, I would not be surprised if they find hiding in there.
And I'm sure I have more. And also my son has features. Like I too have like bigger than, normal eyes, but like that, so that I look weird or anything, but bigger than average eyes. My son's eyes are like a lot bigger than mine, and they have that same shape, that like slanted. We're not from Asian descent at all, but like slanted and really big eyes, big, still big and round, but in the corners like are slant, like the inner corners are slanted, and like and no one else from our family has eyes like ours, like my eyes and my son's eyes.
Incredible. And so this is amazing. Wow,
and even at 13, like when my son was really younger, his eyes always looked really like proportion to the rest of his face, and even at 13 his eyes are still really big in proportion to the rest of his face, but he's still so good looking. He's a very handsome boy.
Do you by chance have a small nose and a little mouth?
Yeah. Well, no, like we have nice lips though, but we both have small noses.
Wow, so this is, this stuff is so intriguing to me. And I want to put the intention out there that, well, two things. Well, three things actually. One, you eventually, by talking to your mom, and I wouldn't be surprised your dad too, asking them questions about if they have ever had dreams about extraterrestrials visiting them, and then of course wrapped up within that is then volunteering your own story and going, look, this is what happened to me, and perhaps the night that they saw the bright flash outside, maybe that matches up with one of the nights that you had been abducted. Okay, so that's all rolled up into one.
No, because that happened living with them anymore when it was just one. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So then
I don't know if they noticed. Oh, and one time though,
yeah,
actually I do recall when I was a kid, my dad started talking about seeing something outside that was like scary and strange.
Whoa.
And then my mom stopped him and said, "Stop it." And wouldn't let him continue. So I should probably pick my dad's brain, but my mom's definitely not open to it. And the thing is, one thing I learned, like when it comes to someone being born with Rh negative blood, both parents have to have an Rh negative factor.
Okay. Oh my gosh. This sounds so glaringly obvious to me that they had to have had experiences. They had to have.
Yeah.
And they're just too, same thing. Like you're saying, if she's got a high profile job, or they're afraid of looking crazy, or maybe it scared them enough to where they don't want to talk about it. My other intention is that you talk with your son, and then end up sharing your stories with him. And then my other intention would be you all sit down as a family and share your stories together. And you go, okay, let's have a conversation, non-judgmental. Nobody's going to look at each other as crazy. Nobody's going to look at each other as weird. We're all going to just go ahead and talk about these ideas and hear each other out. And then also share these things and not ridicule one another. And then also realize maybe there's something here. Maybe there's something to investigate. And maybe this family is very, very special. Because you're probably going to come up with a lot of stuff. Heck, your dad or your mom might even talk about their grandparents and their stories.
Yeah,
maybe. If any of your grandparents are still alive, I'd also say talk to them.
Yeah, unfortunately they're not. Yeah.
There's got to be something hiding in there. Now, we're only, I can't believe we've talked 113 minutes already. It blows me. Once you, as they say, when you're having fun, time flies, and especially when I'm high vibrating right now. This is a highly vibrational conversation. This is delicious, nutritious, cosmically infused, and I cannot tell you how honored I am that you chose to open up to me about this. And in addition to that, is the second byproduct is we'll be sharing this with the world and unlocking tons of doors, unlocking tons of memories, unlocking tons of stories from these people. And if any of you are listening right now, and you happen to have TikTok, follow me, please, on TikTok. It's Inspirado Projecto. It's the same name of this podcast, which, by the way, this podcast is on iTunes, Spotify, Pandora. It's all over the place. iHeart, TuneIn, Amazon Music. It's out there on. I made sure to make sure it was on every podcast listening app and directory, so you can find it. Inspirado, Projecto. Also, if you want to call the hotline, call 561-203-9179. It's a voicemail hotline, so you don't have to get nervous about talking to someone on there. To call that up, leave your experience. I don't care how strange it may sound. I want to hear your stories, and I will include it in an episode of Inspirado Projecto. Find me on TikTok, and if you find me on there, direct message me or send me a comment on whatever my latest video is, and say, "Hey, I want to be on your podcast. I got some really outlandish stories to tell, because I want to hear them." These are what I really focus on, and of course, creation process. Creation process is a big one because since the day we were born, we've heard that geniuses were only a specific tiny, you're just born with it or you aren't. Well, I'm here to say that's not the case. Whoever told you that is a liar, and they didn't know what they were talking about. They're just recycling information, or it was someone who is a frustrated artist themselves, and they thought they got in the way to themselves. Being a genius merely means having a vision, being inspired, following your heart, following that intention to the end product and creating it. That's it. That's all genius is, as far as I'm concerned. And, geniuses are usually the ones who they're celebrated because they chose to do that, because they had their own point of view, because they weren't some generic, oh, I hope they like me kind of attitude, kind of visionary. So remember that, people. You take genie is us. The genius is genie plus us. We are the genie. So remember that. Remember that. Because all you got to do is follow vision to the end. And making art, making music, making paintings is not as difficult as it's been falsely advertised to you. Which I got to ask you is, have you noticed that art has come easily to you throughout your life?
Yes, because I was always the one chosen to decorate for the yearbooks, stuff like that. Like everyone admired my art. And since I was like really young, I had the ability.
Wow. And it's interesting when one of them just flows through you so easily, it makes it easier for those others to come flowing through you too, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Because you just keep opening the door. You're going, okay, I'm getting out of the way. I'm going to just go ahead and say yes to this idea. Whatever you want to be, art, go ahead and be it. Go ahead and be it. Wow. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast. And this has just been, my hands are tingling. Oh my God. My
And it was
brain
therapeutic because I so needed, I've been lately like getting the urge to like talk about this stuff, but I can't bring myself to do it to people in my personal life. So it's so nice to finally get it off my chest, and to someone who's open-minded and can get it out there for others to listen and maybe be triggered and recall themselves, and hopefully they come to you, and then we'll be on to something.
I love it. I love it. This is what I live for. Hey, maybe I've really truly found my mission is to just keep unlocking these doors within people.
Exactly.
Get them harmonizing at that vibration, sharing that news.
And most importantly, like uplifting our consciousness, because it's time soon which our planet's not going to last forever. We have to become intergalactic, and so we have to get along with the intergalactic community.
Oh yeah.
And so it's important for humanity to know all this and to get past all like the superficial things about just the vessels we use to get around in. We are all beings, extraterrestrial and on this plane, have souls, and they're just different levels of development, where we all come from the same source, and we all have to learn to live in love and unity and manifest positive timelines.
Oh,
all being.
That is so wise. Thank you so much for sharing these.
You're welcome.
Highly vibrational content. Thank you so much.
And keep in touch, because like it'd be nice to chat via email and
absolutely.
And share our thoughts. And so like I don't have anyone else I can talk about this to.
You better believe
and it's nice to talk about spiritual things and paranormal things, and I enjoy that. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Inspirado Projecto. Project your inspirations here, whether in a calling or something else you'd like to hear.